When you have a doubt at the beginning, it is almost never just a doubt. It is a fine crack in reality, a shadow that falls for a fraction of a second over something that looks perfect. I felt that shadow in the first weeks after I met him. He was attentive, too attentive. He asked detailed questions about my childhood, my past relationships, my deepest fears. He said he wanted to know me in depth, that he couldn't stand superficial connections. I felt special, chosen. But looking back, I realize it wasn't romantic interest. It was analysis. He was mentally mapping what hurt me, what motivated me, what frightened me. I told myself I was overthinking, that I had finally met a mature man. And I chose to ignore that subtle discomfort that appeared sometimes when I caught him looking at me too intensely, too calculatingly. We got married when I was 23. I dreamed of a big family. I wanted children more than anything. I imagined their room, their names, what he would look like holding a baby in his arms. In the first months of our marriage, I gently brought up the idea. That's when the first carefully crafted story appeared. He told me he had health problems, that years ago doctors had said his chances of having children were extremely low. He spoke with calm resignation, with a sadness so convincing it broke my heart. He told me that if I wanted to leave, he would understand, that he didn't want to condemn me to a life without motherhood. I held him while he mourned the future we supposedly couldn't have and told him that he was enough for me. For years, I lived believing fate had decided for us. I endured family questions, pitying looks, unsolicited advice. Every time I saw a pregnant woman, I felt a hollow ache inside my chest. He would squeeze my hand and say, "We're fine like this. Children complicate everything." I suppressed my desire. I convinced myself love was more important. The first years looked almost perfect on the surface. A beautiful house on the edge of the city, carefully planned vacations, impeccable photos on social media. He insisted we post often. He said image mattered, that people respected success and stability. I didn't understand why perfection had to be constantly displayed. But I complied. In the 5th year, the visible cracks began. Short disappearances, switched off phones, deleted messages. If I asked questions, the problem became me. I was too sensitive, too suspicious, imagining things. Over time, I began to doubt my own perception. I drifted away from friends, from family. He became the center of my world, and without realizing it, its boundary. In the 8th year, I discovered the first affair. A young, vulnerable woman convinced he would leave his wife for her. When I confronted him, he denied it at first, then minimized it. It means nothing. Men have needs. In a twisted way, he managed to make me feel inadequate. I stayed, out of shame, out of fear, out of a love that had already turned into dependence. But the truth was darker than infidelity. One day, while searching for documents, I found an external hard drive hidden in a locked drawer. The password was our wedding date. I opened the first folder and felt the air leave my lungs. Dozens of video files. Different women, different apartments, hotels. Some seemed aware they were being filmed. Others clearly were not. In many of them, I appeared too. Intimate moments from my life, recorded without my consent. Moments when I was vulnerable, when I trusted him. Attached were conversations, negotiations, amounts of money, obscure platforms where the material was being sold. My husband wasn't just unfaithful. He was a predator. As I kept searching, I found something that shattered me in a different way. A separate folder with medical documents and private forum discussions. Not about infertility, about discreet male contraceptive methods used without a partner knowing. That's when I understood. He had never been infertile. For years, he had secretly used contraception, deliberately controlling the possibility of us having children. He told me he couldn't, while ensuring on his own that it would never happen. I felt like he hadn't just stolen my trust. He had stolen my future. I lost years accepting the idea that I would never be a mother. I made peace with the pain. I stayed silent. I adapted. While he, quietly and deliberately, controlled my destiny. In that moment, every piece fell into place. The perfect image, the need for respectability, the control disguised as care. He needed a stable, credible wife to build his mask. I was his social alibi. Digging deeper, I realized some of the women in the files had disappeared from social media after meeting him. In conversations, he promised financial support, serious relationships, shared projects. Then he filmed them, blackmailed them. If they wanted to leave, he threatened to publish the recordings. I was one of the victims. I just had the title of wife. By the 12th year, his behavior changed again. He became colder, more authoritarian, almost threatening in presence. He checked my phone. He told me that without him I was nothing, that no one would believe me. I'm the respected one. You're unstable. He said it calmly, which frightened me more than shouting ever could. One night, after confronting him, he looked at me without emotion and said, "You're part of all this. Without you, none of it would have been possible." That was the moment I understood. I was never his partner. I was his tool. The turning point came when a woman contacted me anonymously. She sent me a link to a hidden platform. Among degrading titles, there was a partially blurred image of me. I recognized myself instantly. Shame flooded me. Then, rage. And above both, clarity. If I stayed, I would become complicit through silence. I began collecting evidence quietly. Screenshots, saved files, copies sent to a secret email address. I lived in the same house with him, smiled at the same table, while inside I prepared my escape. When I went to the authorities, it was difficult. He had a spotless reputation, connections, a polished public image. At first, there was skepticism, but the evidence was undeniable. And as the investigation progressed, other women came forward. Dozens, each with the same pattern: seduced, recorded, blackmailed, some financially ruined, others psychologically devastated, all manipulated. The trial lasted years. In court, he looked at me like I had betrayed him. He showed no remorse, only contempt that his perfect mechanism had cracked. Today, I live with invisible scars, but the deepest wound isn't the public betrayal. It's the child I never had. The years I silenced my maternal instinct. The time I believed nature had refused us, when in truth he had refused me. I have learned that manipulation doesn't begin with violence. It begins with excessive attention, with control disguised as care, with a small doubt you choose to ignore. If I could turn back time, I would listen to that first crack in reality. The overly calculated gaze, the perfectly performed sadness when he told me he couldn't have children. For 15 years, I lived inside a carefully constructed lie. But the truth, no matter how painful, set me free. And if my story reaches even one woman who feels that something is wrong, who carries a doubt and silences it in the name of love, then my confession has meaning. Because sometimes the greatest truth is the one you sensed from the very beginning and chose not to believe.